Arizona Wildcats football. U of A falls 49-31 in their Pac-12 opener in Strawberry Canyon to the California Golden Bears. I am David Kelly, joined as always by Glenn Howell, U of A football class of 1985. And Glenn, going back to when we discussed this game on Friday, we felt like this was a game that the Wildcats might have a chance to win. But clearly we have found out in the last 2 weeks that this is a U of A team that is going to struggle to control the run. They have done it now in 2 games against North Dakota State, and Cal ran for the most yards, I believe, going all the way back to 2009, I believe I heard.
Yes, it's been a long time since they got that many yardage. I think they were breaking out the calculator for this game, and it was just it was ridiculous how we weren't tackling very well. We weren't filling holes where we were supposed to be, and guys, when they got there, they weren't tackling. We had a situation going in, we were 24-28. We had a chance to hold them to a field goal, and we had them in the backfield for a loss. We just didn't wrap them up. They go and score. I think that turned the game around. So they went up 11, and it was just a downhill from there. So I think we should have really concentrated. We were running the ball well in the first half. We were moving the ball, and we just ran away. We just didn't run the ball. We just went away from it. And I think and Jaden is such a young quarterback, you just got to get him in the rhythm. Give him a couple runs, let him get confidence, and get those 3rd and shorts instead of those 3rd and long 16s where he thinks that he has to make it all in one play. So that's where I think that we need to really shorten it down a little bit. And they're still learning. Him and Jed are still learning, and I hope it gets better on the next game because Colorado should be a winnable game.
All right, well, let's keep it on the defensive side of the ball to begin, and then we'll get back to the running game and Jaden Delore on offense. But, Glenn, there's a lot of debate on who this – and granted, the defense is the defense. It's an entirety. There's a lot of debate on whether this falls on the defensive line, whether this falls on the linebackers. And I've said all along that my biggest concern about this team was the linebacking play, and I've repeated it over the first few weeks that I don't believe they're filling gaps as well as they should be. And one of the things in particular that I'm seeing Colby Cage do is something I scolded Scotty Young for back in the day, and that's just running into the offensive line without any concern for where the ball carrier is, okay? We need to be approaching the offensive line with an idea of can we see the ball carrier? Do we have a chance to make a play on that ball carrier, and not just running into the offensive line to try to blow up linemen and create space for others?
Yeah, and also I agree with you on that. And then also having the position of your shoulders, the defensive line, they were doing a lot of trapping. Cal was doing a lot of trapping. We were turning our shoulders perpendicular to the line and getting hit and taken out, instead of being square to the line of scrimmage and taking those guys on and squeezing the hole. So we were actually helping them when we were getting blocked. So we need to be able to adjust that. And that is just technique. That is not about, doing anything different. It's just doing your right technique. Proper technique. You see a lineman come down, you got to be looking for somebody coming to get you. If he's not going to block you, somebody's coming to get you. Or if it's going to be a fullback, or it's going to be a H-back coming to get you. So we have to be able to take those on and squeeze that and squeeze the hole. So I didn't see a lot of that, and that's why they were getting a lot of long runs. And then the tackles after they get hit the first time, Cal must have broke at least 20, 30 tackles. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned, not having your shoulders aligned correctly. And I'll go back to this the third down touchdown run by Jaden Ott, where, he's basically bottled up here. But like you mentioned, nobody grabbed him. It was just a bunch of guys try to put their shoulder into the ball carrier, Jerry Roberts and Isaiah Taylor. Nobody trying to corral the ball carrier and bring him to the ground. And I want to focus, Glenn, on the third quarter, because obviously that's where this game came apart with U of A leading leading 24-21 at halftime. And it wasn't just the running game. It was the pass defense as well. That first drive in the third quarter, Jack Plummer really took advantage of this U of A defense with his tight ends, Glenn. They ran some bunch sets in which the defense lost contain on both of the Kalikilatu as well as Elijah Maharo. They lost these guys in space, Glenn, and it seemed like they weren't maybe expecting that particular formation when they got it.
Yeah, it just seemed that the communication, because you could see them before the play talking to each other, and no one really knew who had who. So they were crossing, and then they were going over on the outside and releasing outside, and no one was picking them up. So they were thinking that maybe the backside safety was going to be able to pick them up, but no one was picking them up. So it was wide open. It was a mistake, and it was communication, and we got to clean that up because other teams are going to start seeing that, and they might just go to those bunch sets doing that. I know Utah does a little bit of that. And we're going to see some of those things because they're going to show. And every game, U of A better be ready. They're going to try to jam it down our throats. They're going to be trying to run the ball because now they think that they can run the ball against Arizona. And it's going to be up to our defensive guys to say, hey, we got to stop this.
Yeah, Jack Plummer in that first drive of the third quarter, he went 4 for 5. All 4 of those completions were to tight ends for 56 yards and a touchdown. So again, that goes back to, Glenn, what I've always said. This U of A defense against the pass gets beat mostly over the middle. Now, were there some plays on the edges? Yes, Isaiah Rutherford got beat for a third touchdown in 4 games. And yeah, that is a bit of a concern when you continually are getting beat for touchdowns game after game. Stukes got beat on an out route. But for the most part, the damage continues to be in terms of the passing game in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I just think they just had a couple plays in the middle. I don't think they had that many. And that, if you look at the games previous, there wasn't no place in the middle. So I kind of disagree with you on that continues to be a problem. This game, it was a problem. It definitely was a problem going over the middle, especially with the touchdown that he threw for a 30-yard, 35-yard touchdown he threw. That was something that was just not a good play on us on the coverage. But I think we'll clean that up. And we just got to, I don't know how we're going to clean up the run game. The run game is just that we're just going to have to be a little bit tougher and play tough. I think that's going to be the solution to that, and saying that they can't run on us.
Well, one of the things, obviously, you didn't have Jackson Turner in the second half of that ball game as he left with an injury. Isaiah Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, the NFL Hall of Famer, got his first extensive action. Did anything stand out to you from what you saw in him? I didn't have him on a lot of my lines. He didn't really come up in a lot of plays, but at least got a chance to get out there and see some action and get some experience.
Yeah, he did get a little experience. He looked a little cloudy sometimes on some of the plays that he wasn't really aware of what was going on, but you know, when you get your opportunity, you got to be ready to step it up. And It's got to be, let's go. We got to get going. This is my opportunity. And I like to see a little bit more aggressiveness from Isaiah Taylor. I mean, I'd really like to see that more in him because he's got to be really supported on the run too.
All right, let's flip it back over to the offense, and we'll start with Jaden Delore, who had, passing-wise, I mean, you can't argue 400 yards and 2 touchdowns in the ball game, but he did throw 2 interceptions. He had the fumble that he lost, and Jaden Delore now has started 20 games in college, Glenn. He is 10-10 in those 20 games, 10 wins, 10 losses. I think after 20 games, you kind of know what you have, and to me, it doesn't matter whether he's playing with the talent from Washington State or the talent from Arizona. I think he's a I think we've seen this bear out in the first 4 games. I think he's a quarterback who can help you win some games. I think he's a quarterback who's not going to help you win some games.
Yeah, and I think that we got to help him more with some of the play selection and get him in the rhythm. And giving him we got to give him some short passes and get them going. And then, I just don't like the play selection of what's going on. So I think that we need to mix in some more runs. We're getting into the tight end a little bit more. We got to get T-Mac a little bit more active. We got to get him in the mix and just spread it around, and then get it to the backs too. Get it to the backside of the backfield. And maybe they are calling those plays and he's not hitting them, but I just don't see it. I'm not seeing it right now. So we'll have to see what they're going to do against Colorado. Colorado's going to be an opportunity for them to run the ball. Okay. If they can run the ball. And I always say, if we can run the ball, I think Jaden Delore is a better quarterback.
Well, we ran the ball, Glenn, for 115 yards in the first quarter and finished with 135 yards. So for some reason, and hopefully we'll find out from Jed Fish later today, why he felt like he had to go away from the run in that first half after it started so well for Arizona. And you mentioned play calling, and I'm going to point out one play that I didn't like, and that was in the second half, the 3rd and 2 quick pitch to Jonah Coleman on the edge that Craig Woodson snuffed out. To me, that's not Jonah Coleman's strength. Trying to get him running on the edge. You want Jonah Coleman running in the middle, downfield, and then allowing him to cut to the outside. But trying to maybe make a pitch or a sweep or anything like that with Jonah Coleman, I didn't think that in a 3rd down and short situation was the best utilization of his skill set, nor was it the best utilization of Jaden Delore's skill set.
Yeah, I think that was a Speedy play.
Well, you didn't have him.
Speedy's in a cast. So that was something that I thought was meant for him. But I disagree on that play also. I thought we should have ran right at him and get those 2 yards and get first down, and let's move the chain. We've got to be able to move the chain. That's what Arizona needs to do. We need to think about, can we move the chains, keep the ball in our hands, and keep the ball out of the other opponent's hands? Because they're going to run the ball on us. They're going to shorten the game, and then it gives us less possessions. So we have to understand we got to play chess, not checkers.
Well, great performances in terms of the wide receivers by Dorian Singer, Jacob Cowing, a big touchdown catch by Tetairoa McMillan. But Glenn, what I want to ask you is that's basically been it from the wide receivers. Those 3 guys. Are you surprised we haven't seen more of the other guys? Are you surprised we haven't seen Kevin Green? Are you surprised we haven't seen A.J. Jones? I mean, I thought coming out of camp, those were 2 guys that we would see in this wide receiver mix. But for the most part, it's been with a little bit of Anthony Simpson mixed in. It's been mostly just those 3 guys.
I think it's going to be those 4 guys. It's going to be Simpson adding in there to make it 4. That's going to be it. I think that those guys, unless one of those guys get hurt, I think they're trying to give those guys more plays, and that's who they're going with. I don't think that the other guys, the younger guys, they might get a red shirt. And that's not bad. I know it's hard for them. I understand. I had the red shirt my first year. It's hard for you to red shirt. It's a tough thing for you to do. At least those guys are traveling. I got to travel also, which made it a lot easier for me to be a red shirt. But it's tough. You can save a year, and then down the road, you got more years to play, and then you can really be productive.
And got to catch the football. We had some drops in this ball game, especially late in the ball game. Jed Fish kind of harped on you've got to be able to take advantage of situations, and even those guys, both Cowing and Singer, had late drops in this ball game, and Singer now has had drops in multiple ball games. And granted, this is his first real full season, but that is something we've got to see less of. You've got to be able to catch the football when Jaden Delore lays it in there. I mean, a couple of those would have been first down catches, and you've got to make first down catches. And we mentioned Anthony Simpson, and we really hadn't seen much of a return game at all. I mean, and no fault of Arizona. They just haven't had many return opportunities, whether it's punt return or kick return. But nice to see Anthony at least get a chance to return some kicks in this ball game, and he looked good doing so. That was really the only thing on special teams that kind of stuck out to me in the ball game was his opportunity to do that. Well, and it was also good to see Tyler Loop come back and make that kick after missing the kick against North Dakota State. We had talked about that as well on Friday. It was going to be very important for him to get that next make to kind of get his head straight and understand that he can do it. The question that I'm still wondering is how comfortable they are with him. I mean, obviously he was kind of the short distance guy last year. He missed, I believe the miss was from 43. I think all of his makes have been under 40. How does that play in? We've seen Jed go for it in a lot of situations. It seems to me that they're still mostly comfortable with him under 40 yards. I don't even know if I would say they're comfortable with him up to 45 yards at this point.
Yeah, I think that, I think the situation, if you look at the situation that went on fourth down, they were kind of doing pretty well with moving the ball. So I don't blame them going on those fourth downs. I think those were good decisions. I don't know if it was a reflection on Loop. I don't know if it was, but I think I feel comfortable with him kicking that 45 because he's got a strong leg. So I feel comfortable kicking that 45 and above, even going up to 50 yards. I think I've seen him in warmups. I watched him in warmups and stuff, and I think he can kick that. He definitely has the leg strength, and you know what? I think he'll have his chance to do that. But if we have a chance that we can go on fourth down when it's 4th and 2, 4th and 1, those are kind of the things that I think that I would roll the dice to.
And Tanner McLaughlin, another big ball game, Glenn. 6 catches for 88 yards. We might have a 100 receiving game from a tight end this season. Who knows? But his last 3 games after he only had 1 catch against San Diego State, he's now had 4, 4, and 6, and it's definitely the most catches by a tight end in 3 consecutive ball games. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit last week, going back to Bryce Walma's first game at U of A, and first 4 games at U of A. And I always felt bad for Bryce because he got off to such a great start here at the University of Arizona. I think he had 4, 5, and 6 catches in his first 3 games, and then he never had a game again with more than 2 catches. So I always felt bad because, man, he must have thought, man, I'm getting all these balls my first 3 games, and then after that he never got more than 2 in any one game.
I know how he feels. It happened to me. I was getting 4 balls, Stanford, Cal, 4 balls, and then all of a sudden 3, 2. I understand how that is. So it's difficult, man. But you got to keep grinding. I think McLaughlin, he's a great tight end. He's got great hands. He's got great body control, and he's blocking too. He's blocking. That's what the thing is. Block first, catch the ball. You got to be able to be effective in that run game. You got to be able to do that. Then you get your rewards and get the ball.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned blocking, Glenn, because I thought one of the things also that made the running game go early in the ball game was the blocking of the wide receivers. We saw Dorian Singer had a couple of really nice blocks early in that ball game. T-Mac had a nice block as well early in the ball game. And then when I went back and looked to see, maybe why the run game wasn't as good in the second half, it's because those blocks from the tight end and the receivers weren't as crisp as what we had seen in the first half of that ball game. So that was, I believe, part of the struggle that the Wildcats had in running the ball in the second half. But, man, if you can get those wide receivers blocking like they did in the first half, I think you can be successful, like you said, being able to run that ball in the future. That's going to be critically important moving forward.
And our players got to understand, I think, that we have a small margin of error. We can't make mistakes. And if that puts pressure on you, you got to be able to deal with the pressure, man. This is what you are. This is who you are. And this is, the formula to win ball games. They know the formula. They look at the games that they've won. Very, very few mistakes in the games that they've won. But the games that they've lost, all kinds of mistakes, turnovers, all the things that are happening that's going to make you lose games. So they understand the formula, They have to get back to the winning formula and understand that's how they're going to win ball games.
All right, well, you can't overlook it, but you got a perfect opponent to get back to that winning formula coming up on Saturday when the winless Colorado Buffaloes come to Tucson. We will be back to preview that game for you on Saturday morning.